very simple to apply the co-integration analysis here. Go to view and then choose co-integration test. I am going with this default option. Okay. Now, look what this output is saying. This is your null hypothesis, no co-integrating vector. No co-integrating vector. This is the eigenvalue, trace statistics, and critical value, and the p-value. You have to look at the p-value. If this is larger than 5%, this means null hypothesis is accepted, right? So this time the p-value is very large, so the null hypothesis is not rejected, and you will say that there is no co-integration between these variables. This is quite surprising, why there is no co-integration between consumption and GDP of the same country. But anyhow, whatever the data is telling you, you should not try to modify it. You have to learn from it and try to find out what happened to my data that this is not giving me good results. For example, I will try to find whether the two series were in same format. For example, if you have one in local currency and the other in foreign currency, US dollars, then there may not be co-integration between these two series. So I will look at my data and I will verify whether I have taken the right series for my analysis. So anyway, when this is rejected, when the zero co-integrating vector is not rejected, this means rank is 0, you should not worry about what is happening here. If there is acceptance here in the first line, no need to go for second line. And then there is another test as well. This is called trace test. This is called max eigen test. And this test is also giving you same kind of results. There is very deep mathematics behind all these kind of things, and it will take some extra time to go into the details of eigenvalues. What you have to interpret in this output is the p-value. This eigenvalue is having no direct interpretation. This is used to calculate the test statistics, which is max eigen and trace statistics. And then trace statistics is compared with the critical value, and then there is decision about acceptance or rejection. And one thing is to look at this whole chain. What is the test statistics, what is the critical value, where it falls, and so and so. Instead of this, you can just look at the p-value. If this is smaller than 5%, null hypothesis is rejected, otherwise accepted. Okay, so even if the statistics says there is no co-integration in it, the software has calculated the coefficient which are most plausible co-integrating coefficients. These are 1 and -1. What does this mean? You can write the long run relationship on the basis of this. The long run relationship is, it should be built on this equation. So L cons is equal to -1.019 time L GDP plus epsilon. This is your long run relationship. Now, uh, see, one interesting question you might be understanding or not, I don't know. Uh, what is the plausible value of marginal propensity to consume? It's between 0 and 1. Is it so? Keynesian, what the Keynesian consumption function says? The value of MPC should be between 0 and 1. But this is exactly equal to 1 or greater than 1. So how is this possible? Oh, sorry. This should not be minus 1, this is plus 1 basically. This is transformed on the second side of equation, then it becomes positive with positive sign. Why the coefficient, in general you can assume that MPC should be somewhat 70%, 80%, 90%, but it should not be 1. Why this coefficient is equal to 1? And most of the time when you are taking log transform and doing the analysis, you will find the same coefficient. It's not basically the marginal propensity to consume. It is elasticity of consumption with respect to income. What happens is basically you have this thing LC, log of consumption, is equal to 1 time log of GDP plus epsilon. There are logs, right? If you want to calculate MPC out of this, there is some other calculation. For example, what you have to do, I am taking the derivative with respect to income. D of log C by dy. Let me say, this is just log of consumption is equal to 1 time log of income, right? I am taking the derivative with respect to y. It will become 1 over c, dc over dy is equal to 1 over y into derivative of y with respect to y is 1. Right? Now, what is the I have to find out dc over dy, the change in consumption with respect to change in income. This will become c over y into 1. So suppose you have some other, suppose you have any other coefficient here. This is alpha, you will have alpha here, and this will become alpha times this thing. Because the alpha is 1, you have only c over y. But what is the MPC? The MPC is change in consumption due to change in income, which is dc over dy, and that is calculate when you are calculating this will become the c over y into the elasticity. Understand? ये point समझ आया नहीं? Should I need to explain this once again or yeah, चलें आगे चलते हैं, छोड़ो. Right. So, you can determine whether there is co-integration or not on the basis of output that you get out of this analysis, and then you can write the Lagrange relationship, and then you can find out, basically when you have log transform, it will not give you the MPC, it will give you elasticity, and out of this elasticity you can calculate the MPC by doing some kind of mathematics, and that's it. And Then there is another important thing which comes out of this VAR analysis, and that is the impulse response function. Impulse. This is your impulse response function. What does it say? This says what happens in the first panel. You have response of L cones to L cones. If you make artificial change to consumption, what will happen to the path of consumption in future? If you are making one SD change, that is, you are coming here, in the next period this effect will enlarge, and then it will start reducing, and it will go on decreasing for the future, right? In the next graph, you have response of L cones to GDP. If there is artificial change in GDP, what will happen to the path of consumption in future? In the first period, there was shock only in GDP. This is not having direct effect on consumption. But in the next period, this started rising, and this is continuously increasing up to the end. And then